How's it going, guys? This is Vincenzo from home of Milan coming back at you once again. Furthermore, today we got a lot to unpack in today's video. We have the win versus Lecce to talk about, the preview in the Europa League versus Roma, and the preview in Serie A versus Sassuolo. Before we get into all that, make sure you guys check out all of our links in the description below at Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and bunches, all at home of Milan. So without any further ado, guys, let's jump into this. So when the projected lineups came out, there was a lot of talk who would be playing at this central attacking mid position since Ruben Loftus-Cheek was suspended due to an accumulation of yellow cards. And to everybody's liking, it was Christian Pulisic who would be given that nod to start in that position, and Chukwueze would be granted another start for his second game in a row. And at the gate, it was Milan who were firing as it took us 6 minutes to open up the scoreline through Christian Pulisic, who's at the top of the box, unleashed a great shot into the top corner, bringing his tally in Serie A to double-digit figures, and Chukwueze also bagging an assist. And people calling for Christian Pulisic to play at that central attacking mid position. It could have gone any better. And what's great about this is it allows Milan to be a lot more fluid in the attacking options, now having that outlet of Pulisic to play in that position to properly rotate as well. And how great has Christian Pulisic been this season? Obviously grabbing double-digit figures in Serie A for goals. And he's just been absolutely sensational, being an absolute menace on that right-hand side. And now at that attacking mid position, he's just been such a great player to have in our team, just a threat going forward in all fronts. And I couldn't be happier with Pulisic's output. Obviously, there was a lot of question marks going into this season, and I think he's most definitely, kind of raised a couple of eyebrows because none of us expected him to be this effective going forward. And obviously, Chukwueze as well, having an absolute sensational game as well, but we'll get onto that later. Milan were then rewarded a corner at the 20th minute, and Adli sends in a ball that is helped into the back of the net by Olivier Giroud, who himself has now 13 goals in Serie A alone. And Giroud has been absolutely timeless this season, aging like fine wine. Now obviously has 13 goals this season, and it's going to be so hard to replace a player like Giroud come next season. Obviously, he's been linked with a move to LAFC, which is more than likely to happen this summer. So it's going to be hard to see Giroud go. He's won a lot of our hearts. Obviously, so many iconic moments in the Milan shirt. So it's going to be so hard to see him go, and just so hard to replace him as well. His goal output, what he does for the team, even though, I think there's a lot of criticisms in Giroud's game, but just overall as a locker room presence as well, he's been absolutely sensational. It's going to be hard to see him go, but we have to move on. And from there, Milan were just in full control. Lecce maybe having one chance in the whole first half, not threatening at all going forward towards our goal. And at the end of the first half, it actually goes from bad to worse for Lecce as they received a red card for a high boot challenge on Chukwueze. And from there, you just knew Milan were in cruise control. We didn't really risk much going forward. We didn't really sacrifice a lot out the back. And just being in control, playing a very possession-based game. And Lecce had a very tough time creating any chances and moving the ball, as we had 64% possession. Moving on to the second half, in the 57th minute, Yassine Adli plays a beautiful pass in between the lines for Leao to run onto. And Leao puts the game to bed 3-0. And that's 3 goals and assists in 2 games for Rafa, who continues his hot streak of form. And it's really nice to see Leao really turn this chapter into the new year. He's been absolutely sensational, and since games are coming thick and fast, it's going to be really important for Rafa to really continue this hot streak. Adli also coming up big in this match, grabbing 2 assists, playing as a deep line playmaker. He had an absolutely great display today, showing that we can use him in certain game scenarios depending on who the opposition is. And it was also fantastic to see our front four all contributing to scoring. Giroud, Pulisic, and Leao obviously all getting on the score sheet, while Chukwueze grabbing an assist. And we continue our win streak to now 7 games in all competitions. And we created loads of chances through Chukwueze, who's very effective in the game, and also Leao creating as well. But nothing really much to add. Overall, one of our more controlled games of the season, keeping 64% possession, little to no threats at all, and just a very composed game for Milan in the end. Let's move on to tops and flops. For top, Hands down, I'm going to say Chukwueze. Just from minute one, he just looked like a menace on that right-hand side, continuing his great form in these last couple games, having 1 goal and an assist in 3 games. And for us, just being more effective and more consistent recently, and in the game versus Lecce was probably his best performance, in my opinion, in a Milan shirt. Now for flops, last week I said Calabria, and I'm going to say Calabria again. Not really offering us much of anything. The quality just isn't there, giving up silly fouls and not really contributing to anything positive, in my opinion. Moving on, previewing our next match in the Europa League, we host Roma in the San Siro for the first leg of the quarterfinals. And I think we're starting to see cracks in this De Rossi side, because against Lecce, they struggled a little bit and we beat them convincingly. And obviously against Lazio in the Derby della Capitale, I think they struggled against Lazio as well. Yes, they did win the game, but I feel like they weren't really creating loads of chances. I think there were more so half chances, not really threatening Lazio at all. I think with us being in such great form, I think we'll really take advantage of this De Rossi side. San Siro obviously is a super tough place to play for any team. And I think we're going to make life a living hell for Roma, because I think we're putting all our eggs in one basket in this Europa League. I really think that we're taking it serious this time around. So I think for that reason, I think that it's going to be a positive result for us going into the second leg. So I think I'm going to predict a 2-0 victory for us, with a nice little cushion going into that second leg in Rome. And lastly, to preview our next game in Serie A versus Sassuolo, they currently sit second to bottom in the league. And it looks like Sassuolo could very well get relegated, which in my opinion would be greater than getting the second star. Because I feel like Lazio, they're like kind of like a mini rival. I feel like we always kind of struggle against them. It's always kind of a blockbuster of a game. Obviously Sassuolo have been struggling clearly since they're second to bottom, but I think this will be a lot tougher than I think a lot of us think, just because versus Sassuolo, there's just something about them that we just can't get over. So I would hope that it would be a lot similar to the Lecce game, but I just can't see that happening, which is why I think we'll still win, but I think it'll be to the slimmest of margins. So I'm going to predict a 1-0 victory for us. I think that'll conclude it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and get involved in the comment section below. I want to know what you guys have to think about the game versus Lecce, our chances in the Europa League versus Roma, and what's going to happen in the game versus Sassuolo. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao ragazzi.